Well, hello and welcome to the Bumper to Bumper podcast. I am Dave Riccio here along with John Riggle, and we do this every week to put you in the know about what's going on with your car. Cars are an expensive investment. You certainly want to know a little something about it. You don't want to be completely ignorant, but just be in the know so you can feel more comfortable. I like to relieve anxiety for people because if there's something in this country that people experience too much of, it's anxiety. And when you have good information, I say that good fact trumps compulsive thinking. And that's what anxiety is. It's kind of a compulsive thinking.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have good facts, you have less anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to try and give you some good facts, put you in the know when it comes to your car to eliminate that anxiety. You know, I just got off the phone with a gal that's got she's younger. She's probably mid-20s. She's got a Volkswagen with about 120,000 miles.
Mm-hmm.
And she's trying to make the decision, do I fix it? Don't I fix it? Do I trade it in broken? What do I do? And so I spent some time with her. We got on Kelley Blue Book, and we looked at the value of the car, and whether we fix it or not fix it doesn't make much difference. But I've taken the time to go through it with her so she could understand. But at 25, there's not a ton of experience. This is probably the first car she got out of college.
Yeah, okay.
You know, out of college or high school or whatever it may be. And so she's getting ready to make that decision. So putting you in the know when it comes to your car, and the thing that I like to tell people about is the lights on the dashboard and what they mean.
Yeah.
Because that's your indicator.
Mm-hmm.
And the one that comes up for me is the flashing check engine light. We get a lot of flashing check engine lights here at the transmission shop.
Oh, yeah.
Because people think there's something wrong with their transmission.
Yeah.
Because they give it gas and like, oh, it's slipping.
It's slipping, yeah.
No. And I go around the block with them and I see that check engine light flashing. I'm like, no, it ain't slipping. That engine is misfiring.
Yeah.
But to them, it's all the same. They don't know the difference. So if you got a flashing check engine light, John, what do you do?
Go find a shop real quick.
Quit driving the car.
Yeah, quit driving the car as soon as you can. Yeah, that's an important one. That's why it flashes. You know, we should probably say that. So we're talking about the check engine light.
Okay.
And we're talking about a check engine light that starts flashing as you're driving the car. If it's flashing, it's trying to tell you something. And the reason it's flashing, as opposed to just coming on and staying on, is that we've determined that the car has a misfire that may be possibly catalyst damaging. Okay.
Catalyst being your
catalytic converter. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And that's one of the main reasons we have computer controls on these cars is to control what's going through that very expensive catalyst sitting on the back of the engine and the exhaust system. So misfires can destroy a cat in a real short period of time. If you have enough load and a sufficient amount of misfire, you can cook a cat in 30 seconds if you've got enough volume going through it.
And a good catalytic converter, I'm talking a good one, I'm not talking the cheapy aftermarket thing, can cost thousands. It's one of the more expensive components on the vehicle.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So you don't want to burn up a catalytic converter.
Yeah.
Now, and what's happening is when you got a misfire, a lot of times it's just raw fuel because we're non-misfire, I guess I should say, or we don't have a good combustion.
Yeah.
So we're sending some nasty raw fuel down the tailpipe, and then that's firing off and overheating the catalytic converter and essentially melts it down.
Yeah. So catalysts operate when they have only in a very narrow window of mixture. They're not designed to, suck up a whole cylinder's worth of fuel and turn it into CO2 and H2O. It's not designed to do that.
No.
It's designed to trim and clean up what's left over from a good combustion event. So whenever we have incomplete combustion, which is what generates a misfire, is just incomplete combustion, we now have raw fuel and air or oxygen being dumped down the tailpipe. Well, you mix oxygen and too much fuel in a cat, that cat tries to turn that into carbon dioxide and water, and we get this reaction that just overheats the catalyst. They go 1,800 degrees, and it will just melt the ceramic brick that is in the middle of that cat. And that's what we try to prevent, and that's why we have misfire monitoring, which was part of the original OBD2 specifications, was we needed to monitor for misfires because that's important. And
so a misfire is imperfect combustion.
No.
So in your engine, we're just going to talk about a V6 for now. It means there's 6 cylinders, and they're in a V formation. So 3 over here and 3 over here. And a misfire is, when the cylinder piston comes up, we've got a mixture pretty close of, fuel and air. It's the right mixture for a perfect combustion. Now, we don't get perfect combustion, therefore we get a misfire. And we were talking, because there's a little bit of definition stuff there, as far as there will be a code, P0300 is a random cylinder misfire. And you were saying that's more related to some of the older models where they couldn't distinguish if you had 2 cylinders misfiring versus 1.
Yeah. So when we see that flashing check engine light, that tells me something. So I know that when I see that flashing check engine light, this engine has a misfire, or there's some reasons why we may have a flashing check engine light with no misfire, but that's a different situation. I'll tell you about that in a second. But what we have is a situation where I'm going to hook the scanner up and I'm going to look for misfire codes. And we have the ability to pick out misfire on individual cylinders. We can have a PO301 to PO
306,
306, 307, 8, but we will see instances where we have what we call a PO300, and a lot of people define it as a random misfire. Technically, it's not just a random misfire. It is an unidentifiable misfire. So in the early days, misfire detection is hard. The way we do misfire detection is we look at the angular velocity of the crankshaft using the signal from a crank position sensor and maybe cam position sensors, so we know which cylinder is misfiring. This is hard to do. This was always hard to do, and it got a lot harder as we moved on into some of the later stuff. But back in the day, we could only do misfiring monitoring through a certain range, from idle to maybe 2,000 RPM. Over 2,000 RPM, we just didn't have the resolution, processing power to do it. So we could have a situation where we had multiple cylinders misfire at one time. We could have, something that affected 2 cylinders. Well, we couldn't necessarily pick out which one it was. We knew we had a misfire, but we don't know which cylinder it is. So we have to have a code for that. So that's why we have that PO300 code. Now, as we got into later models, we got much better with it. We still have that PO300, but now we can pick out individual cylinders a lot better than we used to be able to. And so that's what we look for. We got a flashing mill. Next thing is determine which cylinders it is.
And one of the things that we get, because we're a transmission shop, is we get cars from general repair shops, and they go, "Oh yeah, the torque converter's chattering."
Oh yeah.
And it's I'll just give you an F-150 for instance, because those were real popular back in the day for guys sending them over thinking the torque converter was slipping or chattering, and we look at it and I go drive it and it's misfiring.
Yeah.
And so that's why we do get a lot of the misfire stuff, and not sure exactly where I was going with that, but so it definitely comes up, and there's different reasons for it.
Oh yeah,
misfires, and we've got. I was just scribbling them down here. We've got ignition misfires. I would say that's probably the most common.
Yeah, probably
ignition. So that'd be like a coil or spark plug, something along those lines. Back in the day when we had coil wires or plug wires, that was a thing. So there's ignition misfires. Then there's fuel delivery issues. Okay. So if we're, now we've got a spark plug at each cylinder. We've also got a fuel injector at each cylinder. We can have a fuel injector cause a misfire. So a fuel delivery issue, or maybe we've got a bad mass airflow sensor. I mean, those come up because it's not really knowing how to gauge to get
our
the right
fuel mixture isn't right now.
Yep. So that would be more of a random kind of situation because it's coming from everywhere.
Yeah, you could misfire all cylinders. Yeah.
With that, so we've got ignition, we've got fuel delivery issues, and then we've got mechanical issues. And these kind of just got more expensive as we went down the list.
Yeah.
Ignition misfire, spark plug's bad, probably not the worst thing. Go to the other end, we're talking about a mechanical misfire. That one's expensive. So that could be something like, we got imperfect combustion, maybe because we have mechanical faults such as a burnt valve or a bad valve or, valve spring, or we've got, give me some other examples. Maybe I'm missing something here, but that's pretty much the common one.
EGR valves on the old cars would stick open and you'd dump exhaust gas, too much exhaust gas back into the cylinders, and you come up with what we call a density misfire.
Right.
And back in the day, you could have lean misfires. You could have something affecting one cylinder, leaking intake manifold gasket or something like that. So there's different types of misfires and different reasons for it.
This one is kind of interesting. I ran into this a number of years ago, but a false misfire.
Yeah.
We had a Toyota Corolla that this thing would go out for 200 miles and set a misfire code. They come back and say, still misfiring.
Yeah.
And this is going to sound really strange, but you know what it was? It was a bad tire.
Yeah.
Tire out of balance was doing just enough to trip that thing into thinking there was a misfire.
Yeah, so that's what I said. I mentioned before the way we do misfire monitoring is we look at crankshaft position sensor signal. And if we've got a car with a manual transmission and we're driving down a real rough road, what we're looking at is that crankshaft position sensor signal. Well, in a situation where we've got tires skipping and we've got a clutch that's engaged, we have the driveline connected right to the engine. So as those wheels skip over portions of rough road, it imparts the force into the crankshaft of the engine, and it makes it appear like it's got a misfire. Along those lines, back in the day, there were some Hyundais and Kias that had only one wheel speed sensor on the left front of the car. And when you first looked at these, you go, why is there only one wheel speed sensor on this car? The car doesn't even have it doesn't even have an ABS. Why does it have a wheel speed sensor? It was for rough road detection so they could turn off the misfire monitor when you were going down a rough road, because it doesn't make any sense to have a flashing mill and have a false misfire when there's no misfire. So,
well, and this is a distinction that we were talking here, that there's code set criteria. Right, but the other part of that is sometimes we're not even running the code set criteria.
Yeah, the monitor enable criteria.
Monitor enable criteria.
Yeah, and so that brings us back. Along one of the other things that I recognized several times with your false misfire, another one was serpentine belt tensioners that would seize up, right, and they could cause false misfires. So you always had to be on your toes when you're looking at this. So, and then when we come back to the other point, we were talking about the, what were you talking about there? Damn it, I lost
That's all right. It certainly happens, but code set criteria and then enable criteria.
Oh, enable criteria, yeah. So the misfire monitor by law is a continuous monitor, right? So that means it runs all the time. The thing is, we have to be careful with that, because there's times when you'll have a car sitting in your bay that has a misfire in it, but has no codes and isn't flashing the mill. Well, why is that? Well, that monitor doesn't necessarily run all the time. You have to have monitor enable criteria. So one of the basic enable criteria for a lot of cars is fuel level. Okay, so if we're running a car out of fuel, it's going to misfire. So if you're one of those people that drives around with no fuel in your car, I see them all day long here. They drive around.
They got gas prices right now.
They got an eighth of a tank of gas in them all the time. The thing gets $5 worth of fuel at a time. That thing may never run a misfire monitor because we have to have fuel levels somewhere. Now we're getting better, but 15 to 85%. A lot of times, if it's below that 15%, we turn the misfire monitor off because we don't want to set misfire codes just because the thing's running out of gas.
Oh, yeah. And that makes me think of a couple jobs that we had in the shop. And the reason I brought up the F-150 with the misfire, I get it from a general repair shop. They go, it's got no codes in it.
Oh,
no misfire codes.
Okay.
Yeah, and so that's where I was going with that. But then we had one the other day where it came in where the transmission was bad and it didn't have torque converter lockup.
Yeah.
So we fixed the transmission. Now all of a sudden we got misfire codes.
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean? You guys just fixed my transmission and now I got misfire issue. Well, with the torque converter unlocked or not locking up.
There wasn't as much load, yeah.
Well, it wasn't as much load, but I think it was canceling the, it was the other way around. It was preventing lockup because of the misfire. I'm just trying to, we have so many jobs come through the shop.
You can see that. So yeah, that's kind of the thing. What we have to do is determine, okay, so we've got a flashing check engine light. Flashing check engine light for customers means you need to find a shop and you need to resolve this. If you don't, it will melt down the cats and it's going to cost you a lot of money.
Expensive.
Okay. So the problem is we can see cars that have misfires that don't have a flashing mill. So the mill flashing is for a catalyst damaging misfire. You can have a misfire that you can feel that isn't necessarily catalyst damaging. So this is where we got into it when guys started talking semantics about this stuff when OBD first came out. We'd have a car come in, and the guys wanted to prove that OBD2 didn't work, so they'd pull a plug wire off the car while it was sitting there in idle. Things misfired. They're looking at me going,
Not setting.
explain that. The check engine light isn't flashing, but it's got a misfire. It's got a solid misfire. I said, pull another one. It still won't do it. I said, pull another one. Still won't do it. And they're like, well, what the heck? I've got 3 wires off this car. It should be flashing. It's not catalyst damaging yet because we don't have a sufficient volume of fuel and oxygen from that misfire. There isn't a sufficient volume to raise the catalyst temperature high enough to cause it to be catalyst damaging. Yes, you've got a misfire, but it is not catalyst damaging yet. That's why we see it a lot of times. I'll get cars that will misfire. You can feel misfire at an idle, and you go drive it, and as soon as you get up under load, then the light starts flashing when you come back down.
Now you're pumping more volume through it.
It doesn't. So we have to be careful with all that. You can, and then I alluded to something earlier. I said that you can have a flashing mill that doesn't have a misfire. A lot of cars, well, several that come to mind, Chrysler products and Honda. After you clear the OBD2 codes, if you just turn the key on with the engine off, we should do a bulb check. We should have the check engine light come on. If the codes have been cleared, but the onboard diagnostic monitors aren't complete, some of these will flash the mill at you.
So that is the other reason.
Engine's not running, but you got a flashing mill. So in that case, the flashing mill does not mean catalyst damaging misfire. It means the OBD monitors are not complete in this car. So a little bit of a different angle on that one.
Yeah, and there's even, and we'll move on here, but there's even the modern cars, when they do have a misfire, they're shutting the fuel off that cylinder so it doesn't damage the catalyst. So you take, I mean, and we talk about a broad range. So if we're talking about a 2012 or a 2024, stuff has changed along the line. Some of the basic concepts are still the same. Either way, if you got a flashing check engine light in, you got to go take the car in. Don't keep driving it. But the modern cars they're better at not destroying the catalytic converter if there is a misfire.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So thanks for joining us. Be sure to comment if there's something you'd like us to talk about. We can talk about anything. If there's something we don't know about, we'll make something up. So be sure to like and subscribe. Thanks for joining us on the Bumper to Bumper podcast. Well, hello, I'm Dave Riccio, your host of the Bumper to Bumper podcast, and I would like to thank you for tuning in. If you want one of your car questions to be answered on our podcast, tap the link in the description for a chance to have your question featured. And while you are there, we would love for you to like and subscribe to see more Bumper to Bumper podcasts in the future.